The Pacific Eulachon smelt is a small anadromous fish that typically spends between 3 and 5 years in the open ocean before returning to the Columbia River and its tributaries to spawn. Throughout history, Eulachon smelt have provided an important resource for native people living in the Pacific Northwest. Their rich, oily meat is an important food source, and their bodies contain so much oil that when dried they can be burned like a candle. In 2010, the Columbia River population of Eulachon smelt was listed as threatened under the Federal Endangered Species Act. However, over the past several years, very large runs of Pacific Eulachon smelt have returned to the river to spawn. Starting in 2014, Fish and Wildlife managers have allowed a very limited harvest of Pacific Eulachon smelt. The Sandy River is the only place in Oregon you can fish for Eulachon smelt. The season is only open for a half a day, 2 days a year, and the limit is 10 pounds per person. You must use a net from the bank to catch Eulachon smelt. On the Cowlitz River in Washington, I heard reports of a phenomenal run, where people were filling their nets with fish and catching their limit of 10 pounds within a few minutes. However, when I showed up for opening day in Oregon on the Sandy River, it was clear that the run had already happened. The banks were full of dead fish that had already spawned, and you could not see fish swimming in the river. We started out very disappointed, but after a while we noticed a man in the middle of the river that seemed to be pulling out a fish every once in a while. We waded out in the deepest part of the river to join him, and after a while we started catching a single smelt here and there. It took about 20 dips of the net to catch one fish. We continued to fish for several hours, and when we were done we had 31 fish in our bucket to take home. It was not a full limit, but it was a lot of fun, and we had way more fish than most people there. Smelt are some of the easiest and quickest fish that I have ever cleaned. You simply cut halfway down the back of the neck and then up the belly. A gentle pull will remove the head and intestines, leaving you just the meat. These fish are absolutely delicious fried, and when fully cooked, the flaky white meat easily comes off the bone. The majority of the smelt we harvested I cooked in my smoker using alder wood chips. After about an hour they were done. Smoked smelt are some of my favorite fish in the world to eat. I enjoyed some of them right away, but most of the smelt I placed in the freezer to include in meals throughout the year. Hopefully the population of Eulachon smelt will continue to improve so that there will be more opportunities to harvest them in the future. If the season is again open next year, I will be joining the thousands of other people along the banks of the Sandy River to catch this delicious fish.